Welcome back. Let's take the time to explore the wider area, including some of the developments planned for the future. I spoke to two people active in Brighton communities, Sylvia Smyth of Renew Brighton and Tim Sintes, a member of the Pier and Foreshore Association and the local community board.
When I talk to people about New Brighton, the first thing that I mention in terms of assets is often the people. I used to work for the City Council and I had a bit of a bird's eye view of communities in the city, and I really saw that New Brighton was one of the most engaged. People out here really care about the suburb, and we see that in the way that they respond to opportunities to consult with council. We see it in the amount of community groups in the area, the amount of people that come to events, the amount of events over summer, but also there are really long-term established communities that live in New Brighton. At the moment we're in Northshore, and then there's kind of central New Brighton, South New Brighton, all the way down to Southshore, and each of those have a distinct kind of feel to them. I really think if New Brighton Mall is going to get stronger, it's going to need more people living in it and near it. So there's been a new eco-village proposed, and there's also been a proposition for some apartments on the coast, so that would be amazing if that took off.
We have a clean slate in some ways. As I said, we've got a lot of new blood. There's a lot of rebuilds in the house. Old houses have been replaced by new ones. That's very positive. But I think the main thing is, I think the earthquake united people. We always look after each other, and I think that's really brought the best in people.
I think probably New Brighton's biggest problem is its perception rather than its reality. The reality of New Brighton is that it's a really rich and varied place. The pier and the library are probably one of the key focal points of New Brighton, and where people head when they come there from out of the city.
The pier actually, if people don't know, it was built in 1895, the original pier, and it came down about 1965 just through, an old pier getting dilapidated. Took 30 years of a group called Pier and Foreshore to get enough momentum to get it going again. And what they did, they said to council, if we raise half, would you pay the other half? Now, they had the pier costed at $4 million. For a community, particularly an area like New Brighton, at that stage, $2 million was a lot of money to raise, and I don't know of any other area that's actually raised that kind of money and put a challenge out to council and achieved it. And that is probably one of the best things that's ever happened to this area. It just goes to show if you get the right project, people come out. And there was donations, even in those days, you're talking in the 95s, people donating 10,000. I belong to a surfboard riders club, and we got together, and over a year we built a house and sold it and made $170,000 profit and donated it.
Could you tell me about some of the recreational projects that are happening in the east at the moment?
There's actually some very exciting projects. The saltwater pools is the legacy project. That's been talked about for a long time, and in fact I think it's about 20 years, and it's really getting some momentum now. We've got groups that are really pushing it. There seems to be a liking for a partnership with council. Well, the legacy would probably be on the green area next to the library, between the library and the whale pool, and I think it's a pretty good place for it. On the beach, saltwater pools has to be good.
The whale pool is probably the icon of New Brighton, so people are really attached to that whale, and that was one of the first things that the council decided to fix after the earthquake in terms of their assets.
A new surf club going in at New Brighton. We've got the best library, most fantastic, won a lot of awards, amazing pier, and there's the focus is really in this area at the moment.
And if you see it from above geographically, you can see that it's a long coastline with a spit at the end, and the estuary behind it. So that automatically means that there's dunes that are just out behind me here, and you can see that behind me it's almost rural. It feels really, really beautiful from a natural point of view. We've got the Godwits that every year leave and come back and go to the Northern Hemisphere and then come back, and we say goodbye and we welcome them when they do that. There's also the river. So behind the estuary there's the river going all the way up to the wetlands at the end. And that's beautiful. There's walking tracks and stuff along there. It's been a bit damaged by the earthquake, but we're hoping that'll be restored one day. Obviously we've got Rafferty Domain, which I've heard is the second biggest green space in the city after the gardens. and then Bottle Lake Forest in the north with heaps of mountain bike tracks, and then of course we've got surfing and the beach and people walking their dogs. A lot of people associate New Brighton with dog walking. A lot of people come out here for that. And the cycleways, walkways, tracks along the top of the dunes.
The promenade is an idea of a person who wants it from Waimakiriri to North Beach, and then the next step obviously would be North Beach to New Brighton, and then go on right through, and it could link up with the walkways, the cycleways all around the city. A group that have got together called the Rafiti Sports Incorporated, and they're trying to get all the sports groups together under one roof. I think it's very exciting because most of our buildings and our groups around here are very old.
The skate park in Rafiti Domain is also incredible. If you go down there on any weekend, you'll see heaps of kids down there in the skate park. So, I mean, that's just a few of the extraordinary built assets of the area.
I think this place has got so much potential. I mean, you hear it all the time, but for the first time in decades, we're actually getting some traction. And I mean, just what's happening with the business community here, getting together, and just the people have such a strong feeling with the beach and the area. And all of a sudden, it's just made people get out of their kind of cruisy lifestyles and say, I want to be part of this. And that's the bit I'm seeing, which is really quite encouraging.
I feel like New Brighton is at that point as a suburb where people that got in now would be lucky to get in. I'd say house prices are going to go up. Business is going to get stronger. Yeah, we've got to deal with sea level rise. We've got to factor that into our planning in the future, and that's going to be our next big challenge. But that's going to be the challenge for every coastal community in New Zealand.
A lot of the opportunities I see are around the area that's been termed the red zone. We sort of colloquial term the green zone, and what we see as a sort of recreational corridor to the city. And that's something that will just add to the natural assets that we have out here already. So the sea, the river, the forest. So that rejuvenation of that area, or the rethink of that area, is a place where I think there's lots of potential for this side of town, yeah.
Well, that concludes our look at the recovery for the coastal Brighton area. We would love to know what you have to think about some of the proposals discussed here. So please register on the EvoSpace website and click on episode 3 to give us your feedback. Next episode, we will focus on the exciting proposals to make the East the aquatic playground of the city. Remember, you can watch this episode online at any time by going to the CTV or Rebuild Christchurch websites. And you can share these links with your friends. So until next week, thanks for watching. This is Dion Swiggs for Eyes East.